back to another episode of Creative Writing Advice with me, JJ Barnes. If you don't know me, I'm JJ. I'm the author of How to Write Your Story, which is out now on Amazon. I take you from the beginning of your story all the way through to the end, and I cover everything in between, hopefully to inspire you and give you the confidence to get your story out into the world. Hello, cat. Today I'm going to be talking to you about whether you need to know your characters inside and out before you start writing your story. So this kind of goes into the plotting versus pantsing style. So plotting is where before you start writing, you figure everything out. You know who all the people you're writing about are, you know everything they've been through, all their backstory, all their history, and you plan it, and then you plan your entire story structure. So you've got your beginning, your middle and end, you've worked out exactly how you're building to your climax, you figure everything. And then it's like following a roadmap. And a lot of people find that style of writing really works for them. So for those kind of writers, I think knowing your characters inside and out first is going to be part of it. However, if you are more of a pantser, and that means you just go for it. You just write and you see what comes out and you fix it at the end. Hello, yes. Are you a plotter or a pantser? Then you're not going to know your characters perfectly because you haven't met them yet. So I'm going to talk about both because I think for me, I wouldn't advise you that you have to know your characters inside and out first, even if you are a plotter. Because the problem is, if you carefully construct your characters before you start telling their story, and if you get it completely nailed down, you're going to find yourself limited. Because at the end of your story, you should know your characters inside and out. Because you've told their story. But while you're telling it, you should be able to just see what happens. And if you've written yourself such a tight plan that you cannot go off your plan at all, if your characters will absolutely not behave in a different way, not change their behavior, you're going to be restricted, and restricted by yourself, which isn't good because you're a creative. You should be able to, I'm sorry, I'm just showing you my cat's bum at the minute. But you should be able to let your characters grow, in my opinion. And this is a really interesting one because your characters are in your control. They are. You tell them what to do and they have to do it. They're your little puppets. If you pull my dress down, we're going to have a fallout. Do you know that? So if you're controlling who they are, then it would make sense that you can know them exactly before you start your story because you are the one who decides who they are. You are the one who chooses everything. So why would knowing them perfectly before you start your story restrict you? You are still the creative. You are still doing it. But it's because sometimes when you are writing, your story will flow, or you'll find yourself in a situation where you're like, you know what, it would be really good for the story, or really good for the conflict, or really good for whatever if this character did this thing. Or if this character had a reaction because of a past trauma, or if this character fell in love with that person even though you didn't plan it. Sexuality can be one of those things. You can start writing a character and be like, you know what? In my head, this character was straight, but they have a really good, when I write them, they have a really good chemistry with a character of the same sex. And you're like, oh, I can't make them gay because I've planned this. But if you're restricted, like that could have been a really good thing in your story, a really interesting part, a really romantic thread that you're just losing because you didn't plan it in advance. So knowing your characters inside and out can be really great because they are then diverse and rich and interesting, and you're not going to have everybody be a carbon copy of everybody else, as long as you're willing to still let them grow and breathe. If you're a pantser, which I am much more likely to lean towards pantsing than plotting, then as you write them, you can discover things about them that work for your story, give them backstory that works for it, develop ideas, love interests, passions, hobbies, and then just backfill it when you do your editing and make it feel like it was intended from the start. And that's much more where I lean to, because I like to follow the flow of the story. I like to see what develops. If you're a planner though, a plotter, knowing your characters beforehand can give you a real feeling of strength and control and be like, I know who these people are, I feel able to tell their story. So that's great. But don't let it restrict you. Don't let it control you. You still have control. Even if past you was in control of one way the story goes, present you, writing you, is allowed to go off that and get to know those characters in new circumstances and see how your writing develops with the people as they become who they are. Because it's just, for me, creative freedom is so important when I'm writing. I need to know that I am the one deciding as the story happens. I'm the one deciding what to follow and what to let breathe and what to contain. I don't want a piece of paper that past me wrote all over dictating to me. I would feel my creativity stifled. I'd feel my characterization restricted and limited. You still need to think about making sure all your characters are clear, distinct people who have their own lives, their own goals, their own motivation, their own storylines, their own backstory, their own passions, their own personalities completely. And that's why plotting in advance can be useful for that. But yeah, make sure your characters can live in your story, and that means sometimes you're not gonna follow exactly what you wanted them to do, but it can work, it can make it better, because you won't be creatively stifled. So yeah, my advice would be, if you feel in control of your writing and confident to write by plotting in advance who these people are and everything about them, there's no reason not to do it. And if you're a pantser who just likes to freewheel it and find out what happened, there's no reason not to do that either. Both of these techniques are going to work for you if that's how you feel better writing, and I would never say one or the other is better. But I would say, if you do have to plot everything in advance, try and find the creative freedom with it. You can still let the characters develop naturally. Just trust yourself. Trust yourself to follow those characters and see what happens. So thank you very much for watching another one of my videos. I hope it has been helpful, and I hope you feel inspired and confident and ready to get those characters out into the world. If you find me on social media, you can come and chat to me and tell me all about who you're writing. There's links on my website, which is jjbonds.co.uk, or you can comment down here. Tell me, how have you come up with your characters? Do you find that plotting or pantsing works better for you with creating these people and how they live? And do you restrict yourself? Do you contain everything to the plot? And if that works for you, tell me why, because I've talked about why it wouldn't work for me and why I wouldn't recommend it or encourage it, but I can be wrong and everybody has a different process, so I'm very interested to hear about yours. If you subscribe to this channel, I'm putting out a video every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9:30 in the morning, and you can put on the little dingy bell so that you get a little notification, and if you're busy you can just ignore it, that's fine. What else? I think I've said everything, so thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.